Hey guys, it's Jane. I'm back to do another chapter of my bookish life. Just to catch up with some things. On Twitter this morning, everybody and their dog is arriving at Worldcon and I am super jelly. So the closest I could get to is making a video to say, hi, I hope you all have a fantastic time. And, you know, who knows, one day, yeah, it's never going to happen, but I guess we should never say never. I do have VidCon Australia coming up in a couple of weeks, weekend after next. And no, that's not true. It's the end of the month. It's not the weekend after next, it's the one after that. I'm getting ahead of myself. But anyway, that is coming up soon. And I have to say I'm feeling kind of ambivalent about it. I think I'm feeling even more of my age this year than I was last year. And I've bought my ticket and I will be going. But yeah, all the advertising for it this time around makes it feel even more like it's not actually talking to me. Because I am not interested in making $1 million out of YouTube. I mean, I know that's never going to happen, but what I'm saying is I'm not actually even aiming for that. Yes, I would like to make my videos better. Most of the things I need to do in order to do that, I probably already know what they are. I just haven't put them into practice because of time and, you know, energy stuff. But yeah, I'm not going to have more time anytime in the next couple of years, so that's not going to happen. Yeah, so I just want to kind of, my YouTube is about joining into a community and celebrating books and not about getting huge growth and thousands of views and stuff. And yeah, more and more I really feel like that is not what this is about, even the creator end of it. Yeah, but I am going, so hopefully there will be some fun people to catch up with and that will all be worth it. And I'll come back and tell you about it after it's happened. How about that? That's a deal. So yeah, there's that. What else is going on? Oh, the readathon. Rincy's fantastic 3 Musketeers readathon. Well, it seems like I've jinxed because I got halfway with War and Peace years ago and just life changed. I was reading it in paper then and it's a honking great big book and literally I just could not carry it around any longer because stuff. And so I got halfway and I was really enjoying it, but I just never read the second half. The War and Peace is actually in 2 halves. So I read the first half and there was a natural break and then I just never picked it up again. 3 Musketeers, completely different story. I've read half of it and I am not going to be reading the second half of it because it is a trash fire. Like, you expect older books to have a certain amount of, well, that's the way they did things then, but there's just too much. There's too much for me. The Musketeers are all awful. The best one, the one that I probably like the most, it turns out murdered his wife, and it's just no. There's just so much no. There is so much no. It's not just the way the women are drawn, but it's like completely how the women are drawn is just incredible. Now, if I had, as I said, more time, more energy, more space in my life, I would kind of, you know, intellectually be interested in reading it and finding out where the story goes, finding even more examples of horrific behavior so I could come in and talk about this book, you know, in proper depth. But my life is really not like that. So I got to a sort of breaking point, which was literally about 50% mark. And I went, I'm not enjoying this anymore. I'm going to stop. So I'm out. So sorry about that. Yeah, that happened. And what else do I need to tell you about? Oh, look, I should really kind of actually talk about a book that I liked as one of these, because it's, you know, celebrating books is part of my shtick, right? So I want to tell you about the book that I've read in the past month or so that I've enjoyed the most, which I'm getting to in a minute. But before that, I'm going to tell you about another series of books, and the connection will be obvious when I get there. So I've been reading through Annie Bellet's 20-Sided Sorceress series. I just saw that they had them at my library. I've never read any Annie Bellet before. I hope I'm saying the name some version of right. I did look to see if there was a pronunciation guide, but I couldn't find one for her name. So I have not read anything by her before, but I had heard her name before. Her name was familiar, and it turns out she is one of the authors who was listed on the Sad Puppies, Rabid Puppies docket in the 2015, or is that right, 2015, 2016, 2015 Hugos, where it was all a nightmare, and who drew her nomination as a result of being on the Puppies ticket. So I had not read her before, but my recollection was that she was somebody who, you know, I would want to give a chance to. And so then when I saw her, that there was this series of books that my library had, I thought, yay, I will go and read them. And they're fun. They're fun, sort of pacey, urban fantasy type stories. I read the first 6 like one after the other. They're quite each one's quite short. I would probably, they feel almost like a novella length rather than a full-on novel, but novels are so long now. They didn't used to be as long as they did. They probably are just shorter novels. I don't know. But anyway, I read the first 6, one after the other, basically. And then number 7, which is like the big boss battle, it turns out the person that was ahead of me at the library reading them has borrowed this one and not returned it. And so I'm waiting. I've been waiting like 3 weeks now to get my hands on this book 7. There are more after that, but my understanding is that after book 7 there's like a gap in time. All these 1 through 7 is kind of just one, immediately after the other, immediately after the other. So I'm kind of hanging out to get my kind of release with book 7. The main character in these 20-Sided Sorceress books is a young-ish, or presents as young-ish, woman called Jade Crow. She's actually older than she looks because she's not human. She is a sorceress. That's what she thinks anyway. There's been a slight reveal at the end of book 6, which I'm not going to kind of spoil you with. But anyway, she's a sorceress, and she's from a Native American people. She has a very complex relationship with her birth family, which gets played out in the stories. And yeah, she is working as, she owns a game store in this little town that's like a Sunnydale. You know, it's one of those like towns somewhere, small town somewhere in America that for some reason has attracted a whole bunch of you know, paranormally kind of things. In this case, there's ley lines and whatever, there are a whole bunch of ley lines that are meeting, and so the town is full of shapeshifters and etc. So she is a kind of like loner type person, but it turns out that, you know, she's got this D&D group that she games with, and they kind of, when her past comes back to haunt her in the person of an ex-lover who was also a sorcerer, who she's been hiding out from, who has now tracked her down and is coming back into town to kind of get her. Her friends rally around her. Before this, she's always just run away, and yeah, and now she's kind of decided she's going to stand her ground with this group of friends in this town. And anyway, long story short, I've really enjoyed this story, and I'm hanging out for books to get my hands on book 7. So that's, you know, a recommendation. The reason why I was wanting to tell you about that before I told you about the book that I've read in the recent past that I've enjoyed the most is because I wanted to be able to say all that stuff and really mean it and not make it sound like damning with faint praise, because the book that I've read in the last month or so that I've enjoyed the most is the one thing that makes those 20-sided sorceress books feel kind of a bit blah, and that is Rebecca Roanhouse's Trail of Lightning. If you have not seen this, it's a recent release. If you haven't seen it, Thomas at SFF 180 did a full review, standalone review for this book. You really need to grab this book because it is a corker. Rebecca Roanhouse is a Native American author, and her main central character is not just a Native American character, but she's a Native American character living amongst other Native American characters. And that the worldview, this non-Western worldview, permeates and really informs the story. And the comparison between the Native American First Peoples kind of stuff in Trail of Lightning makes the equivalent type of stuff in the 20-sided sorceress books feel kind of fairly weak. And that's one of the things that's so tricky, because I'm all for this whole own voices thing, to the extent that what it does is lift up people with marginalized voices and Native American authors who are telling Native American informed stories, I think is obviously an example of that. Closer to home, Indigenous Australian authors who are telling stories informed by Indigenous Australian ideas is kind of the equivalent that I connect to. However, having said that, it can't mean that people who don't have that heritage should avoid, including diverse characters in their stories. It's tricky, isn't it? One of my favourite reads over the last 3 years is Matt Ruff's Lovecraft Country, which is in the process of being filmed. It's being adapted for TV, and I'm super excited about seeing this on TV because I think it's perfect subject matter for a really exciting TV series. It's all of the characters in almost every single one of the ensemble that it is African American, and Matt Ruff is not African American, and yet I feel like his story that he wrote really takes on board the experiences of African American people. For me, it didn't feel distinctly different to books that I've read by African American authors. The television property is being adapted by a whole bunch of people who are African American, and so they clearly felt like that the source material was close enough to work with, and so because of things like that, I think that that's a great achievement that's worth celebrating, not at the expense of African Americans telling their own story. I'm now rambling and I'm going to stop. I'd love to hear what you guys are up to, what you've been reading. I hope you're all well, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.